Hi. Hey, Jay.
Hey man.
Hey, do you know that people used to call me Jay? They still do.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, Jay or JJ. That's been my nickname too.
My nickname is JJ actually.
Uh-huh.
I dropped the extra J when I became more into adulthood. I
Okay, I
became
see. We are live. All right, it's working. Yeah, when you get more into adulthood. So you're just one J, not two J's.
I'm just one J now, and then at some point in my life it became J Miles.
Uh-huh.
And then Yogi J Miles was looking good on the marquee, and so it stuck.
Mm.
And I always dig the people who it rolls off their tongue really well. Hey J
Yeah.
Miles. So
Uh,
I'll take it, man. I'll take
okay.
it.
Yogi J Miles. I like it. The whole thing. It's nice.
Hmm.
Thanks for being here. And actually, maybe we could do this. I asked if you'd lead a centering. Maybe we could do that first, and then you could introduce yourself more. Would that be all right? Start with
I,
the centering.
I
Yeah.
love to.
All right. Thank you.
Well, those of you who are watching and following along, if you're sitting down, um, find a tall spine. If you're laid out somewhere, just listening, just find a comfortable place to be. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. Just keep your eyes on the road. And we'll just drop in here for about 20 or 30 seconds and start to notice the breath. Let your shoulders get soft. Feel any tension in the neck melting away. We'll ask that this communication today be excellent, thoughtful. We'll tune our ears and our hearts to be able to listen with compassion. And whatever we gain from today's conversation, whatever insight, we'll make sure that we share and spread the good word. Ashe.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That was beautiful. All right. So, can you introduce yourself a little bit more? Tell us about your work.
Yeah, so my full name, full government name is Jonathan Christopher Miles Sr. So I have a junior. Um,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, I'm a yoga. I've been teaching yoga for, I don't know, 18 or 19 years now. Um, I live in the beautiful city of Richmond, Virginia, who, like a lot of cities in America, are really starting to dig up some of the old roots
Mm,
of oppression. And here in Richmond, this is like the mouth of the river of
mm,
oppression in America,
mm,
right? And so I'm at a place where the yoga and my experience as a human in a brown body, um, and my desire to see a really just and high functioning society is like all at one place.
mm,
So I'm a dad, I'm a brother, I'm a son.
mm,
I have a nice garden outside. I feel like I'm bringing in the spirit of my granddaddy Braxton and my grandma
mm,
Miles, right? Because they were the gardeners on those sides.
mm.
And I'm just living life happily, awaiting for our next evolution of whatever's about to come, because there's been
Yeah.
such rapid change. So
Yeah.
I'm just here, man.
Well, I've been wanting to meet you for a long time, so
Same.
okay. Well, it's great to finally meet you, at least on on the Zoom or whatever this is.
Well, this is the way of the world now, right?
Yeah. But like what you just said, I can relate because like I'm a dad, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm also a gardener. Like that, those are like and a yogi. Like that's my life right
Hmm.
there. So you basically we have a lot in
We got
common.
stuff in common. Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually a professional gardener. That's what I did when I couldn't make money
Oh.
teaching yoga. For like 15 years, I was out there, mostly in San Francisco, taking
Okay.
care of people's gardens.
Okay.
It's hard work, it's hard work.
It is hard work. I can't imagine being
Yeah.
a professional gardener. After the call, I'll probably be hitting you up for some secrets.
Oh, well, it was really ornamentals. Like I
Okay.
was really just making people's gardens look nice and dealing with plants and flowers. I'm really familiar with the Bay Area, that
Okay.
environment. And it's like I moved down to Southern California 7 years ago, and it's still like a new world for me. Like it's a whole different bunch of plants here. Like I don't
Oh
even
yeah,
know.
a lot of succulents in Southern
Yeah,
California yards. Yeah, like amazing year round. That was the one thing
yeah,
that struck me when I was
yeah,
out in San Diego was like everybody has a yard full of succulents.
yeah.
Like it's easy. Like they don't even have to do anything.
No, no.
Okay.
It's really different, but that's beautiful. But plants are a huge part of my life and taught me so much, um,
Hmm.
just being in nature.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I'm excited about your new project, right? That
Yeah.
you're doing with Shankari.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that what do you know? What's the full name? Because I get confused. So yoga,
So it's
no, it's State
the
of
state of
Union.
union, right?
Hmm.
Not state of the union.
Right, State of Union.
State of union. What is the state of yoga? Is
Hmm.
essentially like what it is. Shankri and I have been having conversations, like a lot of people have been having conversations since quarantine and since the murder of George Floyd and Ahmaud
Hmm.
Arbery and Breonna Taylor,
Hmm.
and um, even before then,
Yeah,
we've been sort of in cahoots, trying to figure out ways to
yeah.
uplift our voices more, be more of a presence. Me being, a black man, wanted to make that more notable in the yoga scene, right? And I'm not by myself. There's a lot of me.
Hmm.
Um, and then just to reflect that there's like really high quality yoga teaching and practice, and Shankari's a
Mm.
bhakti yogi, and just like all of the things we've been working on ways, different ways, to uplift the voices. And so one of the things that happened in all of this calamity was, whenever that switch, right? Whenever the
Mm.
switch got turned on, and it was like George Floyd, and then all of a sudden every brown and black person inbox started to fill up,
Mhm.
and people wanted to tell these stories.
Mm.
And for a long time, the stories of not just the black and brown yogi, but the story of the black and brown person is always told through the eyes of the white observer,
Mm.
right? And so um, we wanted to share our story, our way, how we're
Yeah,
feeling, and not have it diluted, not
yeah.
have the narrative created for us.
Mhm.
So we started talking about a conversation that we could have, and then who would be part of that conversation. And the name, the state of union. Check this out, Jivana.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Stickers.
Okay.
I got
State of
stickers.
Union, never heard of it.
So the name just came because
Mhm.
we were discussing what is the state of yoga right now, and how to address it.
Yeah.
So the state of union, the yoga address, um, and it grew, and people were really like overly excited. Someone asked me, Jay, when it early on, Jay, what's been the response? And I was like, it's like biblical prophecy. It's like people have been waiting for hundreds of years for Shankri and I to
Uh-huh.
carve the thing in stone so everyone could
Uh-huh.
come and speak their piece.
Yeah.
And I think that not only have people of color felt the need to have their voices heard in a way that was authentic,
Mhm.
But I think that non-POC people want to hear what the black and brown people got to say. They
Yeah.
want that ancient old knowledge, that old spirit that comes from old indigenous roots. It's necessary now, and honestly, the baton had been passed,
Mm.
to the European for
Mm.
hundreds and hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's now time for the baton to be passed back.
Yeah.
And see what we can do. And so here we are with the State
Yeah.
of Yoga address.
I see Shankar is on here. Maybe she can put a link, or I can do it later when we're done. I can put a link on there.
Oh, if she's on there, Shankari, throw that website up there.
Yeah, because people can still sign up. People can still sign up, right? To watch.
People can still sign up. And honestly, I would recommend, if you can, sign up for all 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
The episodes are going to be on Tuesdays. There's a tighter framework of when the dates are going to be. It's getting everyone scheduled together and getting schedules for 6 episodes for 20 different people who are all busy and all in demand. It's a challenge, but they've been doing a good job. A shout out Shankari, shout out Amber for being behind the scenes. Man, Amber is like a rock star with all the stuff. Shout out to Sam out in Yogaville who helped design the site. Shout out to
Sam.
Sam. Shout out to Angela Prado at Boom Hitch who did all the branding stuff, and she actually just came over a few minutes ago and delivered stickers. Oh, nice. So it's a team, and it's a team of diverse people. That's the whole thing that we want to show. Like, we're amplifying these voices, but we're amplifying the voices so that we can bring everybody in, so that everybody can be called in, everybody can be called forward, so that we can all work together. Because once we figure it out, and we will, we're not going to divide Mother Earth up into sections. It's okay. We figured out everybody's race is cool, so now let's all go to our mutual our like corners and like do our thing. We're trying to make this happen so that we can have a more beautiful, cohesive, connected society.
That's nice. I know how much work it is. I definitely know. Like, that's how accessible yoga started. Really, with like when we got bigger, we had a conference. So it's like, I had the same feeling. Like, I had to share. I needed to bring my community together. It was about 5 years ago that we had that first conference, and similar. It just was like, all this amazing team came together. We did this thing. We worked really hard. And once we came together, I mean, it created something special. And I feel like that's what you're doing. You're like creating this team. I'm excited to be part of it. I'm going to be speaking at the one in August.
Yep.
I'm really happy about that. But actually, I love what you just said, though, about bringing everyone together and how, look, for accessible yoga, we started out with focusing on disability. That was our main thing, because that's my background, was working with people with physical disabilities and my AIDS activism. But we had a conference in San Francisco maybe 3 years ago, and there was some racist stuff happened. Like, some white people there felt like there was reverse racism, some confusion. I was like, you don't know anything about racism, obviously. And I realized, like, oh, wow, I have a different job than I thought. Like, I realized I need to help the disability community learn about racism. And so since then, our conferences have really focused on that a lot. I've been trying to make that a real emphasis, really trying to look at the intersection of these different marginalizations rather than like separating them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it feels like the powers that be. One of the things that I've learned from Kelly and Amber and Michelle Johnson is that the overall, system of white supremacy, like, creates all of those, sort of, it pushes all of the different people out into the margins. So people with disabilities, especially in yoga, like, not having ramps or like all of these different things, not literally not making accessible. was because, you know, they weren't considered. Black people weren't considered. Larger people aren't considered. You know, the LGBT community hasn't been considered, right? And so what
Yeah.
happens is all of these various groups have to go and try to figure out how to do their thing on their own.
Yeah.
And I feel like y'all sort of brought it all together, and like you made it okay for other yoga teachers to want to be in position to address everyone's needs. I know
Mm.
it did for me.
Mm.
And it changed sort of the way that I address my classes when I taught. I don't know if you know this or not, but I had signed up for a training,
Oh.
um, and before quarantine, I think it was in Kansas City.
Oh, no
Um,
way. Oh
yeah, I
my
was
God.
signing up for the training. It
That's
was actually
awesome.
the weekend of my birthday, which was April the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, we had this little
Yeah.
thing happen. So, I mean, I was looking forward to adding, getting the training so that I actually had the tools to meet even more people where they are. I mean, as I get older,
Yeah.
I mean, I see a time when I'm not necessarily teaching yoga asana with as much vigor as I used to. I mean, I only teach a couple classes a week now anyway. Um, and becoming more focused on helping the people who need help, helping the people that are in my family, the older people in the family. You know, we're like, yogis are like the painters, man. You know how it says like the painter's house never gets painted? You know, the yogis' families never get into yoga.
Oh
It's a
God.
thing with us, you know. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's like there's a shyness of us, you know, because
Yeah.
typically in most families, unless you're blessed to be born in a yogi family like Ariel Foster or the Yaks, or the whole
Mm.
like Yaks clan where everybody's a yogi,
Yeah.
um, we're like the only one in this
Yeah.
lifestyle, and
Well, my
so
grandma taught me yoga actually, but she was unusual in my family. She was really the only one. Actually, no, that's true. My sister did it, but actually, I moved my training online, and people who took it, there was a bunch of them, but they saw I got my husband and my son to come and be models because I was like, I don't have anyone else. You have to be here. So they came
mhm.
and were models for one part of that training. It was so fun. But yeah, they won't let, I can't be the teacher for them. Like that's not my role, you know. I've
Yeah, I
tried.
mean, my family asked, but they ask when one day they're gonna ask, and I'm gonna be like, all right, everybody put your plates down. Let's let's do it. But I think they have this anticipation that the
Yeah,
yoga is gonna be like all of this movement and stuff. And you know,
yeah,
the way that you know I would teach yoga to new people is probably, can you be still? Can you notice your breath?
yeah,
Right? What are some of the attributes the ethical attributes that we can um, talk about in a way that doesn't make it yogic? Everybody can get behind being compassionate and telling the truth. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Everybody can get behind, hey, don't steal.
Uh-huh.
You
Well, that's
know?
what I love about your work, actually. I just want to say, like, I love how you always connect back to philosophy. I really appreciate that. I feel like that to me is why yoga is not accessible mostly, is because those teachings are universal and
Right.
we just don't look at them enough. You know, we focus so much on the physical. So I wonder if you could talk about that more, just like your connection to the
So
teachings.
okay. So I started, I'm a martial artist. I'll put it that way. Well, in movement, let's say breakdancing,
Hmm. Mhm.
house, like I love house, old school house head.
Uh-huh.
Um, at some point in life,
Yeah.
you know, I was like married young and had babies, and then I kind of eased back into the dance culture.
Mm.
When I eased back into the dance culture, there was like this athletic stuff going on, and people were basically practicing capoeira on the dance floor or incorporating
Mm.
that. So that was really awesome to me. So I started to find out about that. I started practicing kung fu. back in say like 2000, Kung Fu and Capoeira. So that was like my entrance into movement. My entrance into yoga wasn't through asana. It was through actually, is it over here? Look at that. This was my very first yoga book.
Oh wow. Oh, Yogananda, yeah.
Yogananda, The Divine Law of Success.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and then the second one was the Bhagavad Gita. And I got a Bhagavad Gita through the mail, through like some book club that had no commentary.
Wow.
It was just straight Gita.
Oh wow.
And it spoke to me. It spoke to
Wow.
me in a way that the Bible hadn't.
Yeah.
Because it was, it was a story. Like I felt like, I love a good story, man. And so I was feeling like, man, I feel this. I feel like this guy is talking to me about like what I need to do in my life and the things that I need to overcome. And like, can I practice non-attachment? Can I enter into the battle simply because it needs to happen? Can I practice these things? And so I fell in love with that. I've always been a thinker, I guess. And so it just gave me a lot to think about, a lot to ponder. When I went to the integral yoga training back in 2002 with Vimala Posey, shout out Vimala. Vimala actually sent me a message and told me to call her. So, when your teacher's like, call me, I got to like make the time.
Yeah, I love her. Yeah.
So when I went to the training, I was most excited about the giant stack of books that I got. I was like, okay. And I went to the yoga teacher training because I was like, okay, I'm studying all of this Eastern philosophy. Like I was reading the Gita, I was reading that Paramahansa Yogananda book, I was reading the Tao Te Ching, I was reading some other like stuff related to Buddhism. So I was like in a big search. And went through the training, and it was like I was almost done with the training before I realized that I'd been so focused on the philosophy that I hadn't learned the sequence of the 6 week, the beginning sequence that we learned.
Yeah, and we should say we're both integral yoga teachers, so we have that connection too. Like if people don't know what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, so integral yoga, Yogaville. Here's a cool thing that y'all should know about Yogaville, even though Yogaville, if you listen, I'm gonna put you on blast right now. One of the most famous devotees of Swami Satchidananda was a lady named Alice Coltrane, who was John Coltrane's wife. And if you pick up any of her music, awesome. But it's like, do the right thing, man. You walk into Shivananda Hall, it's like, we ain't got no black people up on the wall. What's up with that? Right? So yoga.
But at New York, New York integral yoga, Swami Satchidananda used to tell a story that they didn't have the money to buy the building. And she walked in one day and just said, I have this vision, I need to give you some money. She handed him a donation. It was like the exact amount of money they needed to buy that building. So that's her picture when you walk in, Integral Yoga New York.
New York? Okay.
Yeah, there's her picture right there.
Redacted.
No, but still, it should be in Yogaville too. She really was a huge part. Yeah.
So, the philosophy is basically what drew me to yoga. The like high-minded, how can I fix my mind in such a way that I start to live more harmoniously with my surroundings? The things that we're dealing with now, it's all energy, man. It's all in the spirit. Like, we're not going to be able to come out and fight the armed police. You know what I mean? We're not going to be able to come out and fight like, the super right-wing militia with their giant like AK-47 bazookas and all of that. But what we can do, I think, is raise the consciousness of our people up. Like if I could raise the consciousness of the people in the hood that's around where I live, like people are really scared then. If everybody in the hood like stopped shooting each other and was like getting up every morning and doing like some breathing techniques
Yeah.
and some meditation and growing like their own garden. Shout out to Deron Chavis.
Mm.
If all the black people in all the hoods was like doing this stuff and like the hood got really quiet,
Mm.
people would start getting nervous. You know, it's helpful to the powers that be
Mm.
that we as a community like aren't together necessarily, and we got all these issues that have been placed upon us, and we're trying to wade the water and navigate through those things. It's helpful that our minds aren't focused to the greater society, to
Mm.
the powers that be. But just imagine if everybody in the hood put their guns down, and then they
Yeah.
start to like live for each other, like we want to do in the yoga community.
But
Like
what
that's
about
why. What's up?
what about the white yoga practitioners? To me, it's like not about the people in the hood changing. It's about people. I'm just stuck on the white yoga community, which is huge. We're talking
It is.
millions of people who say they're spiritual practitioners who I feel like actually aren't practicing. You know what I mean? Like if they were, they would be speaking up.
Because people have their own agendas, man. You know, like the the white yoga community, like, you know, shout out to the white yoga community. Shout out to Indra Devi for helping to create the culture of yoga asana in the West.
Hmm.
But it was always sort of this thing where, you know, the word elitist is thrown around a lot. And so it was, you know, and back in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, you know, people from Europe were flocking to India looking for spiritualism, looking for mysticism. I mean, shit, man. Hitler was climbing up, you know, the mountains looking for something,
Hmm.
right? He was looking for something that would give him the edge. And he wasn't looking for weapons. He was looking for some high spiritual knowledge. Them dudes was like looking for that knowledge.
Hmm.
The same knowledge that that's why they took that sign, that Buddhist symbol of peace, and flipped
Yeah.
it and made it a swastika, because they were looking for that stuff, but it was like kind of deviant. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, looking for the wrong reason, the wrong purpose. White yoga, I mean, again, this is why we're doing State of the Union, so the white
Yeah.
yogis can see what we're doing. Um, for me, white yogis need to fall back. I mean, thank you for like propping the industry up into where it is, in which it makes a lot of money. But what is all the commercialism and the materialism for? You
Yeah.
know, like who are we actually lifting up? It's just like any other industry. It's lining the pockets of a few. And you know, the people in the margins are struggling. Even the teachers are, you know, if I hear one more yoga teacher talking about, oh, I'm just a poor yoga teacher, you know, like the industry's kind of keeping us that way a little bit, because we have what's, you know, the industry standard, right? Which is one of the things that, like, I feel like instead of having industry standard, I should be able to come to you, Jivana. You got like a thing going on and you want me to come teach. Instead of you saying, oh, it's going to be 70-30, I can say, well, which is what the bigger teachers do, right? The bigger name teachers don't say 70-30. They say, this is how much I need my check for.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decide whether or not you want that person to show up at your thing. And there's no more discussion about it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the little fish like me, like we're sort of like held to like, this is what we'll give you.
Yeah.
And I feel like yoga teachers should know their value. All of it, all colors. You know what I mean? And so I guess bringing it back to the reason I was talking about the people in the hood, because it's always going to be a little bit bigger for me than just the yoga community. You know what I mean? Like, and it's these mindful, holistic practices need to be introduced to the layperson. It's like Shaolin, all the old kung fu movies, man. They're like, we gotta like take the teaching out of Shaolin Temple and give it to the people so that they can heal too.
Yeah.
And that was that's why State of the Union is coming out, so we can show, hey, everybody in the world, especially Black and brown people, we got something amazing that we want you to be part of. That's one of the main reasons why we created Project Yoga Richmond here in Richmond. It's because we wanted to create an organization that addressed the community. And whoever that was, it was never just Black and brown people. Of course, there's going to be the Black and brown experience, because if I'm involved, then it's going to be some Black perspective showing up. There's going to be some Black male, cis, all of the names showing up, because that's what I reflect. Anyway, yeah, I can babble on, man. So make sure that you.
I know, I like it. That's why
cut me off, Jivana.
I have to tell you, this platform for me has been such an education, because I've been teaching for a long time, and I do the same. I just talk, and like I'm having to learn how to stop, and listen, which has been a really, really good lesson for me. So I appreciate that. I appreciate what you're saying. I totally agree. I guess I just feel like you're talking about that split, and the kind of the system that we're in with yoga. Like, I think that's an interesting question too. Like, it's changing right now, because not only like because of this racial awareness that we're all going through around racism, but also because of COVID and how studios are closing. Like, every day I've heard another studio closing. Some of them I'm glad they're closing, and some I'm really heartbroken. Like, some of them are community-based places, like Octavia Rahim's Sacred Soul West. Yeah, and then some of them are the big chains that I'm just like, you weren't. I don't know if you're really serving the community anyway. But it feels like we gotta step. What I'm concerned is like that big corporate interests will step in. People who got money still are gonna step in and fill that void as we move out of this. So I hope there's a way to shift in a positive way.
Well, I think the model is, the little back channel conversations that I hear about the yoga industry is, number one, speaking on COVID. Hey, everyone, there's still a super virus floating around, taking people out, by the way. And no one knows how long it's going to be. So, this platform and what we're doing right here is going to be there. And so that in and of itself is going to change the paradigm of yoga. It's even going to change like how we offer teacher training. So, for example, for me, one of the expenses of training is renting space. So now that everything is on this platform, we're no longer having to rent space. So what does that look like in the price structure going forward? And then number two, when you talk about these big corporate industries or entities, and it's all like a thing. So now let's talk about the money. So we have all of these Black and brown people who are now like yoga, mindfulness, holistic life, organic gardening. I mean, shit, my mom turned 69 today, and she's like starting to become like vegan.
Happy birthday.
Less meat, like hardly any meat. Now she grew up in a generation before me where they put like fat back in everything. And so there's a shift happening as people are starting to dive into these practices. And so they're going to start looking for teachers and places to go. So these larger corporate industry entities, or even the smaller places who have managed to stay open, like Black people got money. America, guess what? Black people we spend a lot of money on shit. And so as we start spending money on our health, and we start looking, like the entities is like, oh, we got to make sure that Black people feel welcome. And so that's why all of these, like, I guess white-owned yoga businesses are jumping into these trainings with Michelle Johnson, or jumping into these lectures with the State of Union, or jumping on to the accessible yoga talks, because they're trying to gather information so that they can be prepared to accept all of these people. And we're like, oh, you can't like jump into the work, after we've pretty much built the house, and now you want to come in and add some window dressing. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so we also want to be available for those people. And just going back to the model, again, this Zoom is going to be here, or some function of virtual teaching that is safe, that allows everybody to do it in a way that's safe. And the studio may be open, but not as many people are going to be able to go to the studio. And this model of selling packages and year-long memberships and $22 drop-ins, not going to be able to do it. It's an old hip-hop song called "I'm Not Going to Be Able to Do It." Right? I might have to go listen to that after this, because you're not going to be able to keep doing it the way that you're doing it, or you're going to fail. And so
it's more accessible.
The corporate entities can come, but they're going to be in competition with everyone, including me, who can like buy a virtual account and teach my own classes. Sorry to say.
It's more, what's that called? It's more democratic. It's like, it's more, people can do what they want. They can share, anyone can create a platform online, which is awesome. It's more accessible,
What did Nino Brown say? It's the American way. It's capitalism.
Okay.
And so we're not, yoga isn't removed from, How once said something really interesting. He said that yoga is a spiritual practice that has grown up and evolved in a material world. And so it's now sort of adopted. It's like a hermit crab. It's had to put on the shell of corporate America. It's had to put on the shell of materialism and capitalism in order to survive. See, the cool thing about yoga is yoga makes its own way. So it from the outset, it's like, man, they're like really capitalizing on this ancient art. It's so material. It's so, your $120 yoga pants and $200 yoga mats. It's so this, but yoga is like, it's all of that too, but I'm still yoga. And so I'm still like,
I say that same thing. I say, you can't buy yoga. You can't buy the yoga. You're buying something else. You're buying time with that person, or you're buying time in that studio, or you're buying the clothes, but the yoga is not for sale. That's always there. No.
That's good. The yoga is not for sale. All the what is it? The accoutrement, all of that stuff is for sale. But the yoga, I think the yoga can't be sullied.
No. But also we don't. Also, I feel like we don't like. Sometimes I hear people trying to protect the yoga, but I would say we also don't need to protect it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's also ego. Like, yoga is fine. Like, yoga, those teachings exist. Like, that's there for you whenever you want to go there. What we need to do is work on our mind, basically, to see it and then live it and teach it. That's all. That's where the work happens, right? It happens here inside.
Yes, sir. Oh, I love it. Like, I'm about to ask you. I'm not zipping it. I'm about to ask you a question.
Go ahead, ask me, because I like to talk. I don't get
to So look, man. So you said accessible yoga has been for 5 years, been doing its thing, and you're kind of in. Maybe not in the same boat, but we're like floating down a similar river. And I feel like more and more people are, again, I think it's as much as I want to be helpful as it is, this is another tool in my toolkit. Did you find like people were starting to join accessible yoga or wanting to go through those trainings just to have this other certification? Or are you finding more people who like legitimately want to help? Like, do you find any like, sort of able-bodied all of the things that we say the yoga community is all about, all of the able-bodied stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'm an able-bodied person. Like,
Yeah.
do you find people like me coming into accessible yoga training and wanting to jump into that population?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's like a white savior question too. Like, is that what are they
No,
all? No,
not at
no,
all.
no, I mean, like, it's like a similar parallel, like, being a white savior, trying to step in to like save everyone. But I would just say what I do is it doesn't matter to me why someone comes.
Right.
Like my job is to teach them yoga. And actually, to be honest, accessible yoga is just yoga. It's just it's just an excuse to teach yoga. And like I use the name that people are interested in.
Right.
But it's like if we can just get back to what I feel like are universal teachings,
Right.
and get people to really comprehend what they are and then practice them themselves. That's my job. Also, to put them in the context of our contemporary moment and
Mm,
culture, which is to say that the yoga teachings are clear about the universal, like I said, keep using that word, the universal parts of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that are
mhm,
immortal and never changing,
mhm.
and where we all connect with each other. But
Right.
also, yoga is duality, and it's also clear about the difference in the part of us that is embodied, and how
Mhm.
my body, I'm a white man, so it's like, yeah, I have a different experience than you or other people. So like, yoga is very much like, I think, not denying that. And so I'm really interested in how social justice fits in there and what the teachings say
Cool.
about it. I think there's a long history of that in yoga. If you look at the Gita, the Gita is about right action. How do
Right.
I how do I act in the face of injustice? That's what the
Mhm.
Gita is about.
Yeah.
In a spirit, and how do I use that as spiritual growth? Um, so we have a long history. And then Gandhi, who used the Gita or used the sutras, he went to Ahimsa and Satya. Those are his teachings that he used to overthrow the colonial government in India. I mean, this
Yeah.
this is the root of social justice, is actually these spiritual teachings. It's not separate. This is the root.
I believe that I wrote down. I wasn't prepared, man. I would have had the whole notebook ready. But,
You're
once I
prepared. I think you're prepared.
and I went down the list of like yamas and niyamas, and I tried to put contemporary meanings next to them.
Yes.
And so I do remember the first three, like ahimsa for me. So ahimsa is like do no harm, right?
Yeah.
Nonviolence, whatever. So ahimsa to me, like if I'm in the living embodiment of ahimsa, then what I'm actually doing is practicing radical compassion. Like
Hmm.
I am going above and beyond what
Yes.
people would term compassionate, to where I'm like, I want to be the living embodiment of compassion in all instances, right? Satya, truthfulness. It's about, honoring truth and living in truth, but it's also being receptive to truth,
Mm.
you know, like, and also being open and receptive to another person's truth. Like you
Yeah.
said, we have different experience. A lot of things that happen now, a lot of the discussions that happen, which turn into arguments, are people don't want to acknowledge another person's truth,
Yeah.
right? So let's take the Confederate flag, just
Mm.
just like,
Yeah.
something like major, right? So where some may say it's heritage, it's Southern heritage, like my ancestors and all of these things. I'm not, I don't adhere to what the racists of the old South were all about. It's a pretty flag, the General Lee, Dukes of Hazzard, all of that. And then I might say,
Yeah.
well, to me, the the Confederate flag is like showing a swastika to a Jewish person.
Yeah.
You're like, no, it's not the same thing. And I'm using that example because someone posted like an old episode of Golden Girls. And there's an old episode of Golden Girls where Blanche had the Confederate flag and Don Cheadle was on there breaking it down why it was bad for him.
Awesome.
So again, acknowledging that the truth for me is it does harm. The truth for you is it doesn't.
Yeah.
Can you accept my truth without denying it?
Yeah.
And so that's one. And then Asteya. Asteya is like non-stealing. I look at Asteya as fairness.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, how can we, because think about like in business practices.
Yeah.
Right? People steal in business in sneaky ways. They upcharge it, 200%, or states add sales tax, or it's poor quality and high cost. You know what I mean? So you're stealing in that way. So you're actually not being fair to me. So I look at like life in those ways. So Ahimsa, like, again, like, how can I do no harm or be in compassion if I know that my brother is in harm? Like, Jivana, if I see someone harming you, or you're in harm or in distress, and I walk by you and not pay attention to you, I'm not practicing Ahimsa.
No.
Right? Or if I know that someone's discrediting you and I know different, I'm not practicing Satya.
No.
So like these principles are actually really easy to understand.
Yes, I love that. I hope you did write that down somewhere.
It is. It's written down.
It's so important.
I got this teacher training, man, so I go off the cuff a lot, so I gotta have this stuff ready.
It's so important what you're saying. I mean, really, I think to me, it's the most important thing we could be teaching about these days is how these teachings apply in our lives today. Right. And it's not, it's like, we need, I think as a human race or whatever we are, we need this like ideals. We need these concepts to work towards, that's something we can agree on. Oh, we agree that these are ethical guidelines for life, but we have to apply them now.
They don't work in the book. They only work like in life,
Yeah. And Patanjali says, like when he talks about yama, the next sutra after yama, he says these are universal that apply at all times to all castes, regardless of who you are or when, like throughout time. Like this is universal. So
it's like my mama used to say, right from wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And she also used to say this thing, and this is like, I joke with people, you got your mind on the wrong stuff. She loved to tell me that, like, if I was unfocused, like if I was focused on like not the task at hand or not my schoolwork or whatever it is, you got your mind on the wrong stuff. People got their mind on the wrong stuff. They got their mind on materialism. That's why we had this whole debate of should we, open things back up again.
Yeah.
And it was because people weren't practicing Ahimsa.
Yeah.
People weren't practicing truth. People weren't being fair. People weren't practicing aparigraha.
No.
Right. So here's I'll have Mike Massey gave me this one. Aparigraha is non-hoarding, right?
Yeah.
Cultivating, amassing. So if I look at like what is the lived embodiment of not amassing things, not worried about having things or having things.
Yeah.
I'm living the spirit of abundance.
Yeah, abundance.
And so again, these principles, like you said, are undeniable.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who we are, skin color, tone, height, language, all of these things. That's why like a lot of these old like religions and spiritual philosophies like have like tenets. The 8 Noble Path, the 10 Commandments, Yama and Niyama. I'm pretty sure Islam has their thing.
Yeah. But you know what? It's like religion often doesn't take it to the level of social justice. And although there's a lot of Buddhist traditions that do, like a lot of Buddhist monks have been the ones
Right.
on the front lines.
Right.
But I feel like this is a chance, like for contemporary yogis to step up and actually
Right.
practice.
Boy.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Unfortunately, the contemporary religions. I'm sorry, Mama. My mom's a minister. My sister and husband, they ministers. My son's grandfather's a minister. Like, it's all these church people, man.
I
But
think
it's
you're a
like,
minister too, actually.
I mean, but I can't, like, that doctrine doesn't. I had an argument today with a lady who was like, Christianity never caused harm. I was like, lady, you ever heard of the Crusades?
Oh,
It's like, y'all, like, come on. You got to, like, read your own books. Read your
oh,
own
please.
books. If you read your own books, then you could come with a higher understanding, and then you could actually leave it alone. I asked another person. I'm sorry, Jivana. I asked another person. I was like, look, I didn't even say it was a Bible. I said, imagine that you had one big, thick book to get all your knowledge from, and you were trapped in a cave. And you're trapped in this cave for 20 years. You get sunlight, water, you get food, but the only model of education that you have is this one volume of whatever information is contained. And I show up with another book with some other stuff in there. You're going to deny me until your last breath because you're so indoctrinated in what you have. And I like to ask people all the time, you think God has only written one book? God, we're talking God now. That's a lazy God that's only going to write one book.
Yeah.
Right? He can do all this, like make mountains and like typhoons and duck-billed platypus, but he only wrote one book. He only wrote. Now, like, we ain't even gonna go there.
No.
How are we gonna ascribe a gender to everything?
Yeah.
All right,
but
I'm sorry,
but like the yogi, okay, so even the yogis, I'm just going back to I'm obsessed. Here we have the oldest text, the Vedas, the oldest text that we know of in related to our language that we currently use, like 4,000-year-old texts or where these sutras and the Gita come out of, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I feel like we use them in a similar way, maybe where we kind of like put them up on or we put them on an altar, maybe, and we like bow to them. But it's like, do we actually practice them?
Right.
And I don't think so. I think we've allowed them to be used by like either academics or corporations to sell stuff, and we don't make them pertinent in our lives today. But that's like I'm like obsessed with that idea. I feel like this like what you just said, the way you translated those yamas into something meaningful today, to me that's really the message that yoga practitioners need to hear. That's the practice of yoga.
Yoga is not dead. It's alive and constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, yoga is dead, podcast girls.
Actually, that's the point they make in that podcast. That's what they're trying to say,
Yeah, no,
they're being sarcastic. They got so, and also it's about ego. Like I would just say, one other lesson for me in the yoga teachings is like the willingness to look at yourself. Like that's where I feel like that svayaya, or whatever you want to call it, that self-reflection, where you're willing to say, you know what, maybe I messed up. Maybe I am racist. Maybe I am wrong. Like that.
Don't start nothing, Jivana.
I'm just saying that's what yoga is about to me. Is humility and openness.
I mean, we can take it back to COVID and quarantine. I know you don't have much time, but if you think about it, one of the reasons, I was just talking to a lady the other day, who is the creator of the Sedona Yoga Festival. Since we started, the State of Union, everybody. You hear that? But since we started this, it's allowed us to have conversations with all kinds of people. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we talked about, and we talked about, like, COVID and quarantine and all of these things. It's that people were forced. Oh, she said she's like she doesn't understand how people who don't have this practice are like dealing with life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel that way a little bit. Like if you ain't had no meditation practice, if you ain't had no like mindful movement practice, like if you couldn't sit still with yourself, like, whoa, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so part of this is what you just said, brother. It's like people couldn't sit still with themselves and deal with what was coming up. So they rebelled and said, no, I got to get back out there. Like for some people, discipline was jumping out of the bed, gulping down coffee, and rushing to work in rush hour.
Mm-hmm.
Getting there and being miserable all day and coming home to eat and hopefully there were some loving humans at home to boost you up. But a lot of times they're going through their own stuff too, right? Because we're all in separate places. Mom's here, or the two dads are here, right?
Yeah.
Over here, the kids are here. They got their own agendas, and like we're like all in separate places. COVID said, "I want all of y'all in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to sit still and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Walk 17 loops around your backyard." And people were like, "I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't sit with myself."
No.
They don't have the tools. What we're trying to do, you and me and Shankari and Amber and Kelly and Michelle and Dr. Angel and all of these people is we're trying to give you the tools so that you can sit with yourself. And so that you can, like, it's not even just the hard conversations with other people. Like, can you have those hard conversations with yourself? Like, have I not been paying attention? That's what's going on. People just were blind to things.
Yeah.
And now that your eyes have been forced open.
Yeah.
And you're stumbling around like you're late for work.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, like, what are you saying to yourself? I think, like, how hard are you on yourself? You know, that's what I see.
Right. Love yourself, people. Promote yourself. Look in the mirror and be like, "Fuck it, you made it another day today."
Yeah.
Right? Flex. Eat a bowl of cereal. Eat like a big ass thing of cake, and enjoy it. I saw a lady once. She had a shirt on that said "Long bellies have more fun." I thought that was hilarious. But then at dinner, she was like trying to avoid like the piece of cake. And I was like, you ain't gonna be able to keep no long belly by skipping dessert.
That's true.
So
have dessert. Be nice to yourself. Have dessert. That's your message.
Have dessert. Right?
That's your mantra.
Eat your dessert. Do your things. Love
That's
people.
your mantra.
You can have your dessert and eat it too. Like that's kind of the point. It's like you get dessert on a plate. It doesn't sit on the plate. You eat it. Right? We've been told, like, we've been miseducated big time, man. We've been miseducated to think that we're not supposed to be happy. That materialism, going back to that, is what makes happiness. What makes happiness is what you find inside. If you can't sit for 2 weeks with what's on the inside, you got bigger problems than coronavirus. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. Right. Well, that's right. That's really ultimate teaching of yoga, isn't it? That happiness comes from inside. It's not going to come out from outside anyway. You're not going to get it.
Nope.
No. Well, thanks, Jay. I do want to stop.
It's been cool, right? Hey, y'all. Thanks for hanging out. I can't see nobody on Facebook, but I'm assuming that y'all digging it.
There were some nice comments. I haven't been really following, but yeah, maybe you can get on there if you want to look at them. There's awesome people watching. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
If you have any negative feedback, email Jivana.
Keep it to yourself. That's what I say. Positive feedback only. And then tonight is the first state of
6 p.m. Eastern,
6 p.m. Eastern
3
time.
p.m. Pacific, the State of Union Yoga Address with myself, Shankari Goldstein, who are the architects of the movement, And then our special guests tonight are Amber Carnes, Kelly Palmer, Hawa
Yes.
Kasat, and special guest Marty Nico. Shout out Marty Nico. And I think there might be an appearance of DJ Drez on there too, because I know she's doing something musical. So we might get a 2-for-1 on that one.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to be there. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, man.
And actually, we can put some info maybe about you and your teaching. Right? You put a link on here.
Easiest thing to do is follow Yogi J Miles on Instagram, and I got 2 sets of stickers actually, and Mahavira Yoga.
Mahavira Yoga. Great. Is that Great Warrior? Great Warrior?
Warrior, the great hero. I was like, my intention is to pull that hero out of everybody that I see. We all got it in them, and we got to pull it out of ourselves. Right now, your heroic nature needs to shine.
Yeah.
Everybody, please.
Awesome.
Pull it out.
Thank you.
Hello, brother. You're welcome. Give thanks and praise, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Do I end it? How do I end it?
That's all. Just say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.